Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Literature Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we are going to be discussing on the last verse of chapter 10 entitled Lord Krishna's Departure to Dwarka. And this is our last verse and we will be starting a new chapter on Monday. So without further delay, we will start with the invocation prayers and we will go straight into the class. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivacharya Stotata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivacharya Stotata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakunda. Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapradam Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glory is to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glory is to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glory is to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Bhaktivedanta Namane. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayam Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayishta Bhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So we will chant the verse 3 times. I will chant the verse 3 times, and I request devotees to chant after me. As we mentioned, this is the last verse in the 10th chapter of the first canto, and the chapter is entitled The Departure of Lord Krishna to Dwarka. Tatra tatra hi tatra tyair hari pratyudyatarhana Sayam bheje disham paschat gavishto gam katastada. Tatra tatra he tatra tyair hari pratutyatarthana. Sayam bheje disham paschat gavishto gam katastada. Tatra tatra he tatra tyair Hari pratyudyatarhana Shayam beje disham paschat Gavisto gam gatastada. Devotees can chant, please. No.
Tatra 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 yate Hari pratyudyatarhana Sayam beje disham paschat Gavishu Gamgatastada. Hare Krishna.
Tatra tatra ha tatra ter harihi pradyutat arhana sayam bheje disham pashad gavishto gam gatastada.
Thank you.
Tatra tatra ha tatra ye hari pratyudyatarhana sayam bejam disham pachat davisto gam gatastara.
Anyone else would like to try? Okay, we will do the word for word translation. Tatra tatra at different places. Ha, it so happened. Tatra tat, tatrat, yay, by local inhabitants. Hari, the personality of Godhead. Pratyudyata arhana, being offered presentations and worshipful regards. Sayam, the evening. Bheje, having overtaken. Disham, direction. Paschat, western. Gavista, the sun in the sky. Gam, to the ocean. Gata, having gone. Tada, at that time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening, in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset. Purport. It is said here that the Lord observed the religious principles regularly while he was on the journey. There are certain philosophical speculations that even the Lord is under the obligations of fruitive action. But actually, this is not the case. He does not depend on the action of any good or bad work. Since the Lord is absolute, everything done by him is good for everyone. But when he descends to the earth, he acts for the protection of the devotees and for the annihilation of the impious non-devotees. Although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. That is the way of factual teaching. One must act properly himself and teach the same to others. Otherwise, no one will accept one's blind teaching. He is himself the awarder of the fruitive results. He is self-sufficient, and yet he acts according to the rulings of the revealed scriptures in order to teach us the process. If he does not do so, the common man may go wrong. But in the advanced stage, when one can understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, one does not try to imitate him. This is not possible. The Lord in human society does what is the duty of everyone, but sometimes he does something extraordinary and not to be imitated by the living being. His acts of evening prayers, as stated herein, must be followed by the living being. But it is not possible to follow his mountain lifting or dancing with the gopis. One cannot imitate the sun, which can exhaust water even from a filthy place. The most powerful can do something which is all good, but our imitation of such acts will put us into endless difficulty. Therefore, in all actions, the experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord, should always be consulted, and the path of progress will be assured. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. Om Maganyantimirandhyasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that the translation again. On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset. This is a very nice concluding purport to this chapter because, again, time and time again, Srila Prabhupada reiterates the point of the importance of discipline, the importance of following the rules and regulations of Bhakti, of Vaidhi Bhakti, the importance of observing religious principles. And Krishna himself observed every religious principle. He didn't need to. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not bounded by any action and reactions of the material nature. He's not bounded by any karma. He's not bounded by any do's and don'ts. He's not bounded by any cause and effect reaction. He's not. He is setting an example for us to teach us, to show us that this is the way of factual teaching. We have so many examples in our material life that if we do not follow the principles, if we do not follow the step-by-step process, if we do not follow the orders of our seniors, the teachers, the parents, the elders, you know, our manager, our boss, whatever position they are in the material world, things don't go the way we want it to be. Because these are people who have had experience. These are people who've walked that journey, who've gone through what we have gone through. And because of their experience, they have learned lessons. And we can hear from them so that we don't repeat those same mistakes. Reminds me of a pastime of Srila Prabhupada and his son Prayag, that he wanted to play with the fan, the tabletop fan, as they call it. And the fan was running. And his son wanted to touch it while the fan was running. And we all know that when we put our finger in the tabletop fan when it's running, we can get hurt. And Srila Prabhupada kept telling his son, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. No, Baba, I want to touch it. He insisted that he wanted to touch it. And the father, who knows that if you put your finger inside that tabletop fan, you're going to get hurt. The son, who was, a young kid, probably 10 years old, 12 years old, was adamant. He goes, okay, touch it. And he put his finger in the fan, and of course, the son's finger got hurt. And the son started crying. Prabhupada said, you see, I told you, but you didn't want to listen. And so you got your finger hurt. And Srila Prabhupada said, some learn by hearing, some learn by watching, and some learn by getting heard. And then Srila Prabhupada told his son, unfortunately, you fall in the third category. You had to learn by getting hurt. So it's very important that we follow the instructions of our spiritual master. We follow the instructions of our seniors. We follow the instructions of our Shiksha Gurus. We follow the instructions of our parents, of our elders, those who have walked the journey, our teachers. Right? They have gone through that stage. They know it. They've lived it. They've been hurt. They've been burned. They've experienced it. And if we do not follow the instructions, then we will have to learn life the hard way. And then we ask ourselves, why did I do that? I should have just listened. I should have just listened. But Krishna is not bounded by any of these reactions. But why did he come? Why did he show us factual teaching? To show us that we cannot follow in the philosophy blindly. As they say, blind follow the blind. Blind people create their own stuff because they can't see. So if they can't see, if something is blue, they'll say, no, it's yellow. They don't even know the colors. They haven't seen the 7 rainbow colors, right? And if we tell them, no, it's green, they says, no, it's yellow. What are you talking about? It's yellow. I'm telling you it's yellow. And next thing you know, the blind will teach the others and say, no, it's yellow. Next thing we know, we'll call green yellow. Blind teaching the blind. So here Krishna is teaching us the importance of observing religious principles. Krishna had no obligatory duties. He really didn't have anything. Still, he did everything. Why? So that others may follow. That is the way of factual teaching. One must act properly himself before he can teach others. It is very easy to talk, but it's very hard to walk what we talk. Difficult. Very difficult. So it's very important that we act properly ourselves before we think we can teach someone else. Otherwise, we will accept it as blind teaching. Very, very important. Practice makes perfect. Example is better than precept. If we look at Krishna's life, we can think of many examples of Krishna living the life as we did. And I would like to ask those that are online, if each one of us can think of one pastime that the Lord did that he didn't have to do, but he did it to teach us to follow that way. If we can hear some feedback from anyone here, please.
Hey, Krishna.
Haribol.
As Lord Ram, his interaction with his stepmom, it was really commendable. Getting banished from your father's kingdom and then still treating her with so much respect and love. Yeah.
Following the orders of his father. Yes, absolutely. That's one example. Yeah. Krishna took birth. No, Krishna was the son of Mother Yashoda. And he allowed Mother Yashoda to punish him. He never told Mother Yashoda, how dare you punish me? I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He allowed his parents to correct him. He allowed his parents to raise him, pamper him, love him, chastise him. He's the Supreme Lord. Why did he have to do that? He controls everything. To teach us that, yes, parents are there to teach us, to guide us, to correct us, to love us, to protect us, to chastise us, all that. Krishna led that life. Vishaka posted, I think it's Vishaka. Yeah, she says, going to school and accepting a teacher. Why did Krishna go to school? He didn't have to go to school. Because he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He didn't have to go to school, but he went to school. Not only did he go to school, he accepted his guru as a spiritual master. And then we ask ourselves, why do I need a guru? Because Krishna took a guru. Lord Chaitanya had a spiritual master. And Lord Chaitanya is none other than Krishna, rather Krishna himself, Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord led the life of a common man to teach us that this is the way of factual teaching. If the Lord went to school under Sandipani Muni, accepted the Guru as a spiritual master, came back to Dwarka, executed his duty as a warrior. He never said, oh, you know, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I just got to sit on the throne and let everyone else do the work. Oh, you should treat me this way because I'm Krishna. I'm the Supreme Lord. He never did that. If anything, if we read his life, he was always serving the devotees and protecting the devotees. Krishna set the example. He served his devotees and he protected his devotees. There's a lesson for us in that. If the Lord served his devotees and protected his devotees, then we are also to do the same. A nice thank you to Krishna. He put a post, Lord Krishna used to worship Lord Vishnu every morning as per Vedic rituals, teaching us to also that we should offer worship to the Lord. Exactly. Now someone will say, Krishna, why are you worshiping Lord Vishnu? In fact, Krishna can say, why am I worshiping myself? And in Kali Yuga mentality, we look at it as false ego, right? Oh my God, she's, look at her worshiping herself. Look at him worshiping himself. But Krishna came to set the example for us that we should also worship the Lord. Right? Krishna took, led the life of a warrior, protected his devotees. He worshipped his devotees. If you look at the pastime of Draupadi, he protected women. Are we protecting our women? Krishna was always protecting the children and the elderlies. Are we protecting the children and our elders? Right? Krishna, nobody can imitate and mimic the Lord. He had 16,108 wives. And I'm sure if you ask any of the husbands, even to take care of one wife is such a headache. They have to make sure that they meet the needs of the wife and the children. Just one wife and however number of children, 1, 2, 3, what have you. In this stage of Kali Yuga, just to have one wife and a family, just imagine how much the man has to go through. Krishna had to satisfy the needs of 16,108 wives plus 10 children from each of those wives. And they never complained. The Lord set an example how important it is for us, for the men of the household, the common men, not only to make sure that his family is taken care of materially, physically, biologically, but also spiritually. And at the same time, Krishna is teaching the common men the importance of also maintaining spiritual life, hand in hand. If you look at the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I think he had 11 or 13 children. I always get these two odd numbers mixed up. He was a magistrate, a judge in Calcutta. Excellent manager, excellent judge. Even the British rulers were in awe of how excellent Bhaktivinoda Thakur was managing all the legal cases in the courthouse. We can never mimic or copycat, as they say, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life. Excellent grihastha, excellent grihastha. He maintained his children, gave them their needs, spiritually, mentally, clothed them, educated them, and at the same time gave them Krishna consciousness. And he himself was very Krishna conscious. He was able to maintain both his material and spiritual duties beautifully, wonderfully. He never said, oh, I've done so much to meet the needs of my family, so today I won't do my worship. Today I won't go to the temple. He did it beautifully, both. If we read the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's just amazing. It's beyond my conception. Let's put it that way. It's amazing. He never said, okay, now I've given 6 hours of my work to the court. I'm going home. I'm going to take a nap and that's it. No, he was always writing Krishna conscious books. He was preaching and he was serving the devotees. And at the same time, taking care of his family and his wife and his children's material needs and spiritual needs, meeting their needs, and at the same time giving them Krishna consciousness, at the same time preaching, at the same time writing Krishna conscious books, at the same time serving the devotees. He never said, oh, I don't have time. Because why? Because he is learning from his Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. That's what the Lord did. Krishna, if we look at our principles given to us by the acharyas, it grounds our mission and it is a witness to the world. The principles that we have to and must follow grounds us to the mission of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. The more we follow Srila Prabhupada's teachings, the more we observe the principles that was given to us by the Lord through our acharyas and our spiritual master, the more it grounds us to the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And when we become more grounded to the mission of Lord Chaitanya, we become a witness to the world. The common 4 principles that we should know and should follow and have been told by our acharyas and our spiritual masters is the importance of following the 4 regulative principles, right? No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. These 4 regulative principles are based on the 4 pillars of Dharma: austerity, cleanliness, truthfulness, and compassion. The 4 regulative principles is directly related and tied to the 4 principles of religion, Dharma. So if you look at no meat eating is directly related to the pillar of compassion, mercy. No gambling is directly related to the pillar of truthfulness. No intoxication is directly related to the pillar of austerity. No illicit sex is directly related to the pillar of cleanliness. Everything we do grounds us to our mission. If we look at Srila Prabhupada's life, he went to school. He was raised in a Vaishnava family. Parents, he was loved, he was raised, he was comforted, he was educated, he was corrected, he was, punished, chastised, so on and so forth. Srila Prabhupada went to Scottish Churches of College. That's the school that he went to in Kolkata. Scottish Churches College. And he went through school. He was a law student. He never said, oh, give up university. He never said, oh, don't go to school. No, we should get educated. But his concern was we should protect our children from being exploited by the material education so that they will forget the Lord. But Srila Prabhupada went to school. But how is it that Prabhupada was able to go to a material college and still not lose his Krishna consciousness because of the grounding that he received from his parents? He comes home to a Vaishnava family, right? Srila Prabhupada did not go away to school. If you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, he went to college and came back every day. So he was getting the Krishna consciousness, right? Unfortunately, nowadays, kids, when they go away to university or college for 4 years, they live with non-devotees. They associate with non-devotees, and they adopt their mindsets, and they lose the Krishna conscious environment. And if you see Srila Prabhupada, when he went to school, He went to college in the morning. He comes back in the evening. So when he comes back in the evening, he comes back to a very Vaishnava family surrounded by Krishna consciousness. The deities, prasadam, the chanting, the reading of the scriptures. So he was getting a very good balance. He goes to college, to a setting that is not Krishna conscious, but he comes home every evening after school to Krishna conscious setting. And then he got married. He had 5 children. And he continued his Krishna consciousness. He worked. He had a full-time job. And at the same time, he beautifully executed the service of a grihastha and also as a devotee of the Lord, writing, preaching, and serving the Lord's devotees. He never stopped. So he's following what Krishna came to teach us. So we should always ask ourselves, whenever we think of doing something that we think, oh, it's, I want to become a sadhu or something. Ask ourselves, did Prabhupada do that? If Prabhupada didn't do it, why are we trying to create a new principle for ourselves? That is not observing the religious principles. Prabhupada was very clean, very truthful. Prabhupada followed the 4 regular principles and the 4 pillars of Dharma beautifully. He was very compassionate. He was very truthful, extremely 150%, very austere, and very, very clean. Srila Prabhupada was cleanliness personified. Another important principle that grounds us to our mission is the chanting of the holy name, which was brought to us by Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than Krishna himself. So by following and observing the religious principles that have been given to us by our acharyas, it grounds us to the mission of Lord Chaitanya's preaching, the Sankirtan movement. But we have to practice ourselves before we teach others. So one might ask, but how long should I practice? Well, let's look in the material life, right? How long did it take us to complete school? I think it's 1 or 2 years of kindergarten, probably. 12 years in school, grade 1 to grade 12. And then 4 years of, let's just pick the basic undergrad education, 4 years of college. So if we add it up, 2 years of 2 years kindergarten, make it 1 year, fine. 12 years of school, 13, plus 4 years of university, that's 17, 13 plus 4, 17. So it takes us 17 years to get educated in the field that we want to get educated in to find a job in a material life. It takes us about 17, 18 years approximately. Why is it that when it comes to Krishna consciousness, after 2-3 years, we think we've got it? I can teach the world. Nope. It takes years. It takes years. We have to practice what we talk. That is the most difficult test, unfortunately, in the age of Kali Yuga. Very, very difficult. So by following these principles, we are not repressing ourselves. If anything, we are elevating ourselves to a higher platform. By following the principles, by chanting the holy name, we get the higher taste. And we leave the material desires behind according to the level of our self-realization, according to the level of our realization. To the degree that we have learned to be detached, to that degree we leave our material desires behind. So if our realization is 10%, then we can only leave behind 10% of the material desires. If our realization is 20%, then we have given up 20% of our material desires. If our level of realization is 100%, then we literally give up everything material, 100%. But that can only happen by continuous chanting of the holy name, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, and by following the principle, observing the religious principles taught by the Supreme Lord himself. Taught by the Supreme Lord himself. Therefore, the importance of observing the religious principles means that we need a spiritual master, experienced guide. The spiritual master is the manifested mercy of the Lord. And we need the spiritual master so that we can always consult with the spiritual master, and that who will help us on the path of our spiritual life and to progress in our spiritual life. And if we do not have a spiritual master, then we go to our spiritual mentors, our Shiksha gurus, right? Who've had years of experience in Krishna consciousness. Like we mentioned earlier, it takes about 17 years to finish education before we find a job. 17, 18, approximately. Before we find a job in the field that we want to find. Krishna consciousness may take 25, 30 years, 50 years. We cannot perfect it in 1 year. Vishnupada Prabhu says, in one of his classes that he gave about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, he says, when we get initiated, the word initiation comes from initial. Initial means beginning. So when we get initiated, it means that we are beginning our spiritual life. It does not mean that we have perfected our spiritual life. It does not mean that we have excelled. It does not mean that we have succeeded. It means that we are beginning. And I remember Vishnupada Prabhu saying in class that if we have been initiated for 1 year, then we are a 1-year child. If we have been initiated for 2 years, then we are a 2-year toddler, the terrible 2 stage that we've heard before. If we have been initiated for 5 years, then we are in, I think, what, kindergarten, if I'm not mistaken. If we have been initiated for 7 years, then I think that's, first grade or second grade in school, right? So we don't know much. We're still learning. If we have been initiated for 10 years, I'm thinking that's 4th grade or 5th grade. We're still learning. We're still learning. We are still sucking our thumbs in the cradle. We cannot have the mentality, oh, I've excelled it. Mother Kalini, a very senior Prabhupada disciple, when she was leaving her body in 2015, I remember right before she really got into the deep stages of her dying stages, when she was a little bit more cognizant, she was practicing Krishna consciousness for about 45 years at that time. She joined in the mid-70s under Srila Prabhupada. And few devotees were telling about Mother Kalini, you've done it. You've got your ticket back to Godhead. You know, you've been practicing Krishna consciousness and following Srila Prabhupada's teachings for 45 years. You've made it. She says, I have a long way to go. I'm still learning. Yes, I've been practicing for 45 years, but I'm still learning. There's always room for improvement. And I have so much more to learn. That should be our mentality. There's always something new we can learn. We haven't excelled. We haven't got A+. We are still learning. And at the same time, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, is we cannot mimic the Krishna's pastimes, lifting of the Govardhan hill, dancing with the gopis. That is only Krishna. He's the Supreme Lord. We are not the Supreme Lord. We can only follow and observe the religious principles given to us by our acharyas. We cannot mimic what the Lord did. And if we ever think of mimicking it, it's a sure downfall in our Krishna consciousness. And it's very simple. Vishwagana Prabhu says, WWSPD, what will Srila Prabhupada do? If Srila Prabhupada did not do it, we should not do it. As soon as we try to behave and act like the gopis of Vrindavan, sure fall down. We cannot mimic and copycat what the gopis of Vrindavan did, or what Krishna did, or what Radharani did. We cannot mimic it. It's impossible, Srila Prabhupada said. It's impossible. But we can follow we can follow Krishna's examples of following and observing the religious principles and following them. And we can follow them with an experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord. And we should always consult. We should always consult with our spiritual masters. And we should always consult with our spiritual mentors. Should I do this? Is this right? I'm thinking of doing this. Is this good? I'm thinking of doing this. Is this good? Is this the right way to think? Is this the right way to do? We should always be consulting with our spiritual masters and our spiritual mentors. Even if someone tells us, you should do this, but if that person is not doing it, then you don't follow. We all need spiritual mentors, but we need spiritual mentors who are experienced guide, who has gone through that stage of Krishna consciousness and who have been seasoned, who have gone through austerities and understand Krishna consciousness, who have lived austerities, who can tell us, no, that's not right. And as we said, it takes 17, 18 years to finish school. So we need to think, let me get a spiritual mentor who is, 20, at least have been practicing for more than 17, 18, 19, 20 years, because they've gone through that stage. I'm just throwing some numbers out, just comparing it to the material life is very important. So here to conclude, Srila Prabhupada is teaching us the importance of observing religious principles because Krishna himself observed it. And the importance of having a spiritual master as the experience guide, and the importance if we don't have a spiritual master, and the importance of having a spiritual mentor, seniors, shiksha gurus, who are experienced, that they have had experience. We don't want guides who are just talk, but they have no experience. We can get them from the parrots. We want spiritual mentors who have had experience, who walk the talk. We don't need talk the talk. We need experienced guide who walk the talk because they have gone through it and they've experienced it. Very important. So this was my realizations from this amazing verse from Srila Prabhupada, amazing purport to conclude this chapter on the importance of observing religious principles. And our principles, by observing the religious principles, is grounding us to Lord Chaitanya's mission and to Prabhupada's teachings, and the importance of having a spiritual master or a spiritual mentor who are experienced guide who have had experience. That's the key word, not just talkers. So thank you for allowing me to share with you my reflections and realizations. If there are any questions, I think there's a question by Mamina in the chat, and she said, what do we understand by the term blind teacher? A blind teacher is someone who had no experience. A blind teacher is someone who follows the philosophy blindly without understanding the philosophy. If a blind teacher is blind, they don't see anything. And they will say, this book is blue, but it's actually green. He's blind. He's telling you the wrong information. He's guiding you the wrong way. He's not following the philosophy. If the blind teacher is telling us the book is blue when it's actually green, what are the chances of him being able to read and follow what is in the book 100% with experience? That is what Srila Prabhupada is teaching here about being about blind teacher. It's very important that we really understand the concept of blind teacher. We have, I've come across so many situations, Mamina, where there are a lot of preachers that talk with no experience. Think of an example that if we were to go to a math teacher for a science problem, the teacher is going to tell you, I don't know this. I have no experience. I'm a math teacher. A math teacher, I can tell you to solve any problem because I have experience. But if you bring me science or English or history or geography, I don't have experience in that, so I cannot help you. I don't have knowledge in that, I cannot help you. Because an experienced teacher will show one the step-by-step process, right? If we were to go to a math teacher and ask them, what is the Pythagoras Theorem? I'm just throwing out something from math that always stuck with me all my life. What is the Pythagoras Theorem? And they'll tell you, no, it is this side and this side is equal to this side. Well, what is the side called? Well, I don't have experience in that. I just know the sides, but I don't know what that sides are called. Well, it can be any side. Whereas if you go to a math teacher, they will give a specific name to one side and the other side equals to this side. They'll give you the specific detail. Why? Because they have experience in how to solve the problem. Same thing with Krishna consciousness. We need an experienced guide who have had experience. Like, for a mother, as mothers, we don't go to a woman who has never had children to ask them, how do you breastfeed a child or how do you deliver a child? They won't know anything. They're like, yeah, I know the signs of it because I learned it in school, but this is how it all happens. And this is how it, they say it feels, but I haven't gone to the pain of child labor. They're like, oh my God, you're of no use to me, right? So we have to be very careful that we choose an experienced guide who has gone through that experience. Not just talk. We have a lot of talkers in this world, a lot of talkers, but have they gone through it? Have they experienced it? If they haven't experienced it, it's very hard for us to get the right instruction. Srila Prabhupada has experienced it, A through Z, 1 through infinity. That is why his books is The Bhagavatam is called the spotless Purana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has experienced it. All our acharyas have experienced it. They write these books with experience, not just book knowledge. They write it with experience. So they're teaching us the importance of experienced guide and not following a blind teacher. I hope that helped, Mamina. Would like to ask devotees if you have any other questions, any thoughts, any clarification, please, or any add-ons. I would like to hear from all of you. Please unmute yourself, or you can just jump right in. We have a couple of more minutes that I would like to hear your inputs and thoughts and add-ons. Okay, I hope this class was beneficial to all of us. I hope that we're able to distinguish between a blind teacher and an experienced teacher. This is what this is what Srila Prabhupada is teaching us in this purport from Lord Krishna's example. The difference of experienced teacher and a blind teacher. We need experienced teachers, not blind teachers. Before we end this class, would like to remind devotees that we have our Bhagavad Gita circle this evening, and we are in chapter 7, the knowledge of the absolute truth. Please do join us at 6 o'clock. It's a very beautiful reading. In fact, the chapter that we are in is so powerful that sometimes I wish we can go slower. It's so beautiful. It's so powerful, yet so many questions. So please do join us this evening at 6 o'clock. Until then, Vanchakalptribhyascha Kripasindavevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.